Here we go. All right, in the temple process and adapting that to a business flow. Okay, so we've the Holy of Holies is that place where the high priest um, makes the connection with God. He's getting direct download from God, right? Communicating, but it's also in applying that to business. That's with a CEO space. Okay, right? He's the top of the peak of the hierarchy, right? And he looks back on the temple, and he's basically overseeing everything. He knows everybody, all the players, all the priests that are running the show, or all the department heads that are running this business. And we're going to talk a little bit about how this relates to the SEAL teams because the pattern is the same. All right. So the CEO he's the one who has the vision and the expectation. The high priest, the CEO are synonymous. They have the vision. They understand the process. This definition, expectation. Expectation is a powerful force that draws things to you. Use it wisely by always expecting the things you want. Right? Always visualize the way you want things to be. Right? And I can tell you more times than I can tell you in my life that I had this vision of something before it ever happened, and it happened exactly the way I visioned it. In the SEAL teams, they tell you you do combat swimmer ops. They tell you to plan your dive and dive your plan, and like every time it worked every time. All right. So this is the temple. The high priest has the vision and the knowledge of the process. The same with the CEO, or should be the same with the CEO. Okay, and so there's the altar of burnt offerings, or the altar of sacrifice. Then there's the brazen laver. Okay, so when you apply this to becoming a Navy SEAL, this would be BUDS training and STT, SEAL tactical training. Okay, so what do you do in BUDS training? There's a high attrition rate. Like 80% of the people that start SEAL training quit or get washed out. Okay, I had to go through it twice. All right. And then the brazen labor, that's accountability. That's going to be STT. You go through the same, they say it's more advanced training, just more the same training, maybe adding some things to it that are specific to the way that command does things, or adding some SOPs that your instructors or that they are going to give you to help you do the job, get to accomplish the mission. Okay, but that would be STT. When you go through a board, right, and you got to pass the board and to get your trident. Then once you get your trident, you are a Navy SEAL. Okay, now that would be like there's an apprenticeship program with Cato Construction. Okay, so you're going through. They've gone through a trade school. They've learned their trade, whether it's welding, CAD drawing, plasma, water jet cutting, whatever that is, right? Then they pipe fitting, whatever, right? And then they go through the apprenticeship program, right? And they're going to learn more advanced. They're actually going to apply what they've learned. Okay, so in the temple process, you've got the table of showbread. That's two rows of 6 loaves of bread, which represents the 66 books of the Bible, which, the temple was way before the Bible was written. So did they make 66 books in the Bible to correspond with this? I don't know. But it's representative of increased learning. Okay, learning more, digging in to the word. Okay, when this comes to the SEAL teams, that's learning more about your trade. You're learning more about the weapons. You're learning more about land navigation. You're learning more about diving, tactical diving. You're learning more about demolitions. You're 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 enhancing. They'll send you to school. All right. My first platoon, they sent me to Army Parachute Rigger School. My second platoon, I had to go through Special Warfare Communications course. Right. Then I went to Sniper School. These are all the you're enhancing your knowledge. Okay. Then there's the culture of sacrifice. Now this kind of puzzled me when it came to that. I'm like, what are you doing? Right? All this time, dancing around praying, and I'm like, but for some reason, something clicked in my head about mission planning. Okay, in the SEAL teams, I just wanted to go kick ass. I hated mission planning until I learned the benefit of it. Okay, you plan every contingency down to the most minute possibility. Okay, so when something goes crazy, you got a fallback position for loss of communications, for a down man, for missed extraction. If you go to escape and evade, you have a process that you just start following and takes you get saves your life is what it does. Okay, and that should be so when you're doing this, when you're doing this mission planning, you got people that are way more experienced, been done this before, right? And they have these standard operation procedures from times that they've done it before, right? And so they just pull it out of their pocket. And if you're a new guy, you can just adapt somebody else's SOPs. You never had to go through that hard lesson to learn that process. You just borrow it from the more experienced guys. Okay. And that same thing can work in business. This is kind of when Jason Cisneros does his Chairman Project or the Built to Exit, we call Built to Exit podcast. Okay. That's kind of what he does with that. He says what he's going to say. Okay. He's got his prepared presentation and then he opens up the floor. Okay. And people can share their knowledge and their experience, apply something that he said, something he said during his talk, trigger something in their mind that they can share with everybody else, and they can glean some experience from somebody else that has that experience that they never had. Okay, when we're doing this, when we do this for the business incubator program we're going to do in conjunction with the apprenticeship program, we're going to bring in people who have expertise in marketing and accounting, supply chain management, that kind of thing, right? We're going to bring in successful entrepreneurs that can share their experience. Okay. And so but I saw Jason Cisneros do this when he did the what do you call it? The next Impactor, which was kind of like a mini version of The Apprentice. The Apprentice, that's especially when they did the Celebrity Apprentice, that was a very good example of this process. Okay, and then you have the menorah or the lampstand, right? And that's gets fed with oil from the other side of the veil, which is basically represents teaching from the high priest or the apostle. Okay, um, it's it's representative of direct mentorship from the CEO of the company or the subject matter expert. Now you go behind the veil. So the Ark of the Covenant is. This is where you actually speak with God. This is always the high priest actually speaks with God. All right. But this is where the CEO is, you know, the CEO space. Okay. All right. Um, that person's going to be like a Renaissance man. Okay. There was a movie, but Danny DeVito, called the Renaissance man. Um, Renaissance, yes, broad knowledge about many things in different fields, deep knowledge, skill in one area, able to link information from different areas, disciplines, and create new knowledge. The Greek ideal of the well-rounded man was at the heart of the Renaissance education. Okay, this Michael Petro, the Bishop Michael Petro, Apostle Michael Petro, this guy had a doctorate in civil engineering. And this guy was extremely knowledgeable about many things. It was incredible, right? Whether it came, to heavy equipment operations, heavy equipment mechanic, but he was also master when it came to broadcast communications. I took him. We went to the Consumer Electronics Show uh, in Las Vegas, and I had him with one of the top guys in the field, Michael Kramer. Okay, and oh my God, they were on par. They were on level with each other. Now, Michael Kramer developed the MIMO technology, the modulation out technology. Um, you could get, with a satellite feed, you know, linked to a satellite and provide Wi-Fi and broadband communication to an area that didn't have it. They needed that kind of stuff for like oil and gas exploration, or he developed it for the DoD, setting up broadcast communication sites in remote areas in Afghanistan and Iraq. Then he went on and did the same thing in Africa. Okay, and they actually have got that technology. He had a big, he had like a trailer with a big satellite dish on it, right? He was trying to sell called Little Blue, and but they end up that technology is like the size of a suitcase now, a briefcase, all right? And but Michael Petro was right on par with him. They were speaking the same language. He knew the process, okay. And he taught that to Michael Holguin, all right? He's now the bishop of the church, right? But he's no dummy, right? He knows what's going on, right? And so, as a CEO, especially when it comes to your business, you should know the process. In the SEAL team, it's going to be the chief of the platoon. He's going up through the ranks. We had a junior department head and a department head and the LPO, and he had all experience in many departments within the platoon, whether it's diving, ordnance, uh, air operations, intel, communications, in first lieutenant or engineering. All right. So by the time you get to be an LPO, you've got all experience in all those different departments. So you can manage everybody, all the departments in the platoon. And then by the time you're chief, now you're teaching the LPO how to be the chief. You're helping the department head how to be an LPO, and you're teaching the junior officer how to be an OIC, officer in charge. Okay, so that's relates to this position. Okay. All right, so he's and then being the master of your finances, right? Knocking out debt, creating a budget. A lot of people don't really understand what a budget is. They think it's just having it, they're not spending more than they're making. There you go. I think they got it together because they did that. A budget's keeping track of every penny, knowing what's coming in, what's going out, right? Where it's going, why you're spending it, right? And this is, when you're in that process, sometimes you go back and forth, you know, right up your budget. Then you start paying your bills and you're seeing, oh man, I had something happen, or that I didn't account for this. You got to go back and redo your budget, right? And you got to keep it. I got QuickBooks. I love QuickBooks, and you can attach links to every account that you have, whether it's a bank account or a cash value life insurance policy or investments, whatever you can, a mutual fund, whatever you can right there have your dashboard. You are looking at your world of your finance. You know where every penny goes. And when you do that, oh man, you get some growth. You get to see, you get to see why you're spending what you're, what do I need this? Is it a need or a want? Okay. And why do you want something that you don't need? Right? What makes you want it? Okay, there's something going on there, but you keep track of everything, the growth in your accounts. You're knocking down your debt, paying down that debt, putting in a debt roll up. Whether you may want to use the pill method, right? That's where you're paying just the principal at a strategic time during the month. It's going to knock down the most amount of debt, right? And then of course when you're using this infinite banking strategies, all right, you're looking at your policy, your whole life policy, seeing the growth in there. When you get to the point where you got enough in your policy that you can pay off your remaining debt, including your mortgage, guess what? You borrow from the policy and you pay it all off. Now you're paying yourself back. Okay. And then you can leverage that asset and buy more assets and do the same thing. And that's something like, what are you even talking about? Right. No, it's something that's hardly talked about. I mean, now it's now more than ever. You can go on the internet and look up family banking strategies or infinite banking, and they don't really explain it all. I've been doing this for a bit, and so I actually had to work through an illustration. We have this software that actually works it down to the penny and shows how much you can do it way faster using the software than I can, winging it, do an illustration. But I had to do that for me to understand this process. Okay. But when you see, you'll hear a lot of criticism about people that focus on finances. And that always comes from somebody who is clueless about finances. They just like, okay, they may know what to do to make money, but they don't pay attention to that money. They're not keeping track of it. They're not diligent. They're not aware of what they're doing with their money. That's what having a budget means. All right. You got to understand your finances. Okay. When you go on my website, so this is, the family banking strategy. There's a couple tabs in there: Sam banking strategy, infinite banking strategies. There's these animated videos the founder of All Into Life did, and then I got the one for the synchronistic bet strategies for business. This is a little graphic of QuickBooks, right? I just love QuickBooks. It'll make you pay attention. Right. And then Score Navigator, I just tell you, Score Navigator helped somebody the other day that, they got their scores are really low, below 600. All right. By Tuesday, their scores are minimum going to increase 90%. So they can be looking at a 650 FICO score by Tuesday using Score Navigator. Right. And it's a great tool. Right. And of course, you can see there's a link to Score Navigator on mybusinessisyourbusiness.info. but using all the tools and being aware, just being conscious of what's going on with your money and your business, your activities, your time, okay, your focus, right? And you know, it, they say if you go to law school, there's a term you hear a lot. Everything's easy when you know the rules, okay? And you know where everything's at, and what you have coming up, and either coming in or going out. You control it. You are in control, and that's the purpose. All right. I hope this was clear as mud for you. I hope this helped you understand. Right. But this is that last process, and when you are at this point and you've mastered it, you know it. Now you can help other people. Right. You can look back and people are coming up. And they're learning the process. You can help them get there faster with your knowledge and your experience. You can be that subject matter expert. You can be the CEO of your business. All right. Have a good one.